Sup everyone, today we're going to be talking about Xiao. Before we get any further, I know already there's going to be people in the comments saying,
Walrus, Xiao is still one of the best units in the game. I don't think you need to be talking about him like this, and I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I think he's the perfect unit. He is well-versed, he's easily built, he has amazing teams, he has the best...
Okay, dude, like we get it. Xiao is still a good unit. Just because I'm saying in this video right now, I'm telling you guys that there are definitely problems with Xiao, and it doesn't really mean that he himself is a bad character. I'm just saying he falls victim to numerous circumstances in the game of Genshin Impact, and for people who are thinking about picking him up or continuously to developing into his constellations, you need to understand a couple things about Xiao and why going forward there's a high chance that he'll continue to get shafted, not directly but indirectly. All right, so the name is EroticWalruss. You can call me Walrus. If you guys enjoy discussion-based content where we can talk about anything Genshin Impact and maybe non-Genshin Impact from time to time as well, click subscribe and keep up to the content releases. I post videos every single day. So let's talk about Xiao. All right, the first thing I want you guys to understand about this character is that Xiao is a character that has like theoretically incredibly high damage scaling potential. What I mean by that is the more enemies that Xiao can plunge and hit, the more damage he is essentially dealing. He doesn't really lose damage the more enemies there are. And for the most part, on paper, that should be an amazing thing, because even just talking about one enemy, the damage he can output within a given time is already very good. And that's where the belief that Xiao is still one of the best DPS in the game. And to a certain extent, in a certain scenario, that is 100% true. In fact, given enough enemies, Xiao can probably be the best DPS in the game. But you see, there's a fat but that follows that. It's because EroticWalruss has actively shifted the game away from mob groups. They don't want any scenario where there's just like 20 different mobs charging at you at the same time. And even if certain abyss rooms are designed that way, they make sure to segment the mobs into multiple waves. So they'll send 5 first, and then after you kill the 5, then they'll send the other 5, and after you kill that 5, then they'll send another 10 at you or something like that. And the problem with Xiao is he is only slapping cheeks in his demonic form, and this is when we get into some of the caveats about this character and how that he didn't end up drawing the short stick because EroticWalruss wanted to target him. It wasn't because he was too strong. In fact, when he was first released, he was incredibly versatile and strong, but as the time went on, it just got worse and worse. And first is the Venti downfall. The reason EroticWalruss needed to make sure that in the Spiral Abyss that there are no mass groups of enemies charging you in a singular wave is because a character like Venti exists. And when Venti is paired with any other unit in the game, you have a scenario where things just completely get evaporated. And this isn't any fault to Xiao, right? It wasn't Xiao's fault. It's just that Venti was designed in a way to completely trivialize the content, as to the point where there isn't any challenge anymore. It doesn't matter what EroticWalruss does unless they do something absolutely insane, like scale the mob's HP up and all resistance up by like triple, quadruple, meaning that one Venti burst is not enough, and make these mobs have these kind of anti-CC auras. Then think about it like this. If that's what it takes to just counter one character, like what about the other characters? Then everyone's gonna get shot. So what they decided to do instead was reduce the emphasis they used to have on multiple groups of mobs, and now they found creative ways to go around that. And someone who suffered a lot from that change is Xiao, because Xiao, whether he's hitting one enemy or he's hitting 20 enemies, he's hitting for the same damage on each enemy. So okay, now that grouped enemies are gone, whatever, right? Whatever. Nobody cares. Xiao mains were like, you know, I can live with this. But you have to understand, Xiao was a character when he was released solely based on hype. The amount of excitement and people losing their minds over this character getting released was enough to make miHoYo delay his support kit and dedicated artifact set. In fact, we only got his artifact set in patch 2.6, and after some testing, it's not even that big of an improvement. And you know why? Because there are things that Hoyoverse needs to do to keep this character in check. Like I've been saying, this character is certainly strong. If they overdo it, it's going to be too much. So his artifact set is here now, but he still doesn't have a dedicated support being in an Anemo, right? And also another problem is that Xiao being Anemo, he doesn't have access to reaction damage. So for characters that are sometimes weaker, we can bypass it with different reactions. There are certain electro characters that just work better with electro charge. There are certain electro characters that have options outside of pure electro-centric teams. Now look at Xiao. What options does Xiao have? He's a DPS unit through and through, and the only role he can play is the main DPS. Try bringing Xiao as a burst support. See how that worked out for you. Like, how bursty can you get, right? You have to use the duration of his burst, right? So he's already gated by the fact that his burst duration is too damn long for you to get the full effect out of it. So now he's essentially a hyper carry who's forced into this position and given no tools to succeed. Yet, despite all that, he has succeeded. This is a wonderful, wonderful character. And now let's continue, because you thought I was done with this list. Now, bro, like, I'm not done yet. Now we get to the part of the shield targeting. Hoyoverse has been targeting shielders for the past multiple patches, continuously releasing characters that bypass the shield. And for Xiao, a character who is continuously losing health in his burst state, and you cannot switch out of his burst state, nor can you get energy particles during his burst state. Now there are these anti-shield mechanics, and let me tell you guys, it's going to get worse. You think Hoyoverse is done with anti-shield mechanics? That's cute. Watch it get worse. Mark my words. Right, so for Xiao, it's not the end yet. For this character, currently constantly losing health during his bursts, he relied heavily on a shielder to protect him, to make sure that during his burst he can maximize his damage without having to worry about being staggered or getting nicked by enemies, and causing him to continuously lose even more health than expected. Now, let me just paint a picture for you. After Zhongli, who is the next one in line who has seemingly been dominating the scene in terms of efficiency and damage? Now, if you said Raiden Shogun or A under your breath there quietly, then yes, you're correct. Eventually, A or Raiden Shogun is going to end up on the chopping block. And what do you think they're going to do to her? Maybe they're going to have some gimmicks which reduce energy particle generation by whatever percentage to make sure that A struggles to upkeep her burst skill, unless you have maybe, I don't know, some sort of dendro answer for it or whatever. But it's easy for A to fit into multiple teams, as her role in teams can be more than just the big fat damage. She can supercharge other people's bursts as well, right? That's just part of her kit. She does so many things. Now, what do you think is going to happen if that ever gets introduced into the game? And then Xiao, who already for some people struggle with energy regen, and I understand there are certain ways to bypass that issue, but it takes a bit of effort, right? But let's say they put more strain on energy particle generation in certain types of content. What is going to happen to this character? I mean, mechanics can only take you so far. I don't mean to make this video to scare you. I don't mean to make this video to try to get people to opt out of Xiao. The sad thing is, you would hope that some answers are in his constellations. Oh, maybe he can bypass some of these issues. Is there a constellation that could allow him to generate particles during his burst? Is there a constellation where he doesn't lose as much health, or maybe stop losing health altogether during his burst? No. The only constellation that is of value to Xiao is C1 and C6. Everything else in the middle is filler, and it's insanely filler. It's filler to the degree that it's laughable. So for people who are building Xiao vertically, you have a long way to go. I mean, for most people building vertically, you can see the end goal inside. For Xiao, it stretches to the heavens. You have to go all the way to C6 to completely transform this character. And let me tell you, C6 isn't perfect either. With the way Hoyoverse has been designing content and releasing elite mobs, like there's only one monster in the entire room in Abyss 12 or something like that, right? Like the Golden Wolf Lord. Good luck with your C6. You might as well not have it. Actually, in fact, you don't have it. You don't have C6 if you're fighting one enemy for Xiao. So there are all these problems. It just feels like there's too many limitations put on this character to allow him to fully shine. Now, despite all that being said, he still a good character. He can still clear content, and the people who love him have built him up to be incredibly strong. He has multiple options for weapons. At the end of the day, he excels at grouped enemies, but also he is superb in single target enemies, and that's by design, right? Because HoYoVerse doesn't make Genshin overly difficult. They don't ever design content that can only be cleared with certain units, and the flexibility of all these unit options makes this game enjoyable for people. If you want to play Xiao, but don't be surprised if he ends up being not as powerful, or if he gets shafted, or it's very difficult to make this character function at its full potential. On paper, it looks very good if you're able to, you know, do this and that, but then in actuality, you don't know what HoYoVerse is going to continue throwing at him. You don't know when he's going to get some sort of love sent his way by the developers. The only thing you do know is that this man has been suffering in-game canonically for thousands of years, and likely he will continue to suffer for thousands more. I guess HoYoVerse is just really trying to keep it to the script for this one. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. My name is EroticWalruss. Like, subscribe if this video piqued your interest, and until next time, urge you all to stay safe and peace.